Well, here we go again. Not entirely sure why the last video was completely out of focus almost all the way through. But that was, as far as I'm aware, not my fault. Although I don't know, I have been suffering from quite a nasty concussion. And it's entirely possible it looked like it was in focus originally. Yeah, anyway. So, reactions to the delightful North London derby. That was quite entertaining, yeah. 4-1, I'll take that. Didn't look like it was going to be like that. Again, we started quite slowly. It was, yeah, a curious thing. And I was looking at it and thinking to myself, I don't really know how this is going to go. But it was set up for Eze, really, too. It was the game which Eze was always going to come good on. Which is nice. We like that. He's been due, to be fair. And you have to sit there and think, well, why not? It was destiny. Yeah. Or something of that ilk, anyway. But yeah, it's quite satisfying to beat Spurs quite so easily. I mean, they didn't even try and lay a glove on us, to be fair, but, you know, sometimes you just have to, you can only beat what's in front of you. And we beat them, which was, as I said, which was nice. The Mikel Merino assist was lovely. Trossard, again, people don't realise how much Trossard does for our team. And if you look at it, I think it was the third goal. Hang on, let me think. No, it's the second goal. Trossard popped up on the right-hand side. If you listen to the commentary, Trossard appears on the right-hand side. So I don't even know what he was doing there. I'm not entirely sure he knew what he was doing there either, to be fair. But yeah, you sit there and look at it and go, okay, well played. And it was just a strange... I mean, he had a fantastic game, and he's having a lot of good games. Scored in the last North London derby as well, if I remember rightly. Well, I would be tempted to play him against Bayern. But as I've said before, I don't think that Bayern is the game to really give a rat's ass about. You've got momentum. Momentum's something, and I get that, and I understand that, and it could be important, but I don't think it is. It just doesn't, for me, it doesn't do what I think it's supposed to do. There are no inclinations or indications that if we lose against Bayern, it's going to make any impact whatsoever as to us qualifying for the Champions League later stages. It's just not going to make any difference. And the Chelsea game is much more important. And as far as I can see, and I did I put out on Twitter, or whatever we wish to call it now. I don't really want to call it X. I put out a expected first 11. And I've gone with Martinelli and Merino up top. Because again, Martinelli needs, he needs minutes. He's coming back from injuries. He's seen his place get pretty much taken from by Trossard, even though Martinelli was having a good season as well. Look, Trossard's got the most, I think it's 11 goals and assists, or goal involvements, as they now seem to call it. Trossard's got the most. So you have to sit and look at it and go, okay, Trossard's undroppable in the big games at this moment in time. But I just don't see this as a big game. It's dead rubber. So I've got Martinelli and Merino. Merino, again, to be honest, we're not sure as to whether Gyökeres is going to be If Gyökeres is fit, Gyökeres should play because he needs minutes as well. And I think the game against Bayern would suit Gyökeres more. At home. Against the team who are... They're depleted as well. They've got players missing. Which I'm okay with. Masala Fish isn't playing. Diaz is suspended. It'll be nice to see Gnabry come back to where he started. And I'm sure he'll get a particularly good reception, just the same as Xhaka did when he came back with Leverkusen to Arsenal. Which I was at. Yeah. But... would I prefer Gyökeres to start on Sunday against Chelsea? I think it's Sunday anyway. I probably wouldn't. I've made a point about this, and I just don't think that Gyökeres fits our system. I think Marino does, because he can play as a false 9, he can play as a 10. And not an out-and-out striker. And that's all that Gyökeres is. He doesn't really bring very much else to it. He's not like a Firmino. I thought he was going to be a bit like a Firmino for Liverpool, with his hold-up and stuff like that, but he doesn't appear to be that. He also still doesn't look particularly fit. And I think we change our way of playing. We don't have the same flow because we're using him as a spearhead, stroke anchor, shall we say. You don't get the same free-flowing football as what you do when he's not playing and Marino is. Because it gives the opportunity for whomsoever's on the outside or in the middle, like Eze, Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, etc., etc., they can become the striker rather than people to feed the striker. And I think that responsibility suits them a lot better than being the supply chain. I just don't think it works. It might become something which can work over time, but at this moment in time, I don't believe it works. So yeah. Midfield, I've got Rice playing, I've got Odegaard playing because I'm expecting Odegaard to be back. Madueke, again, came on as a sub. He needs minutes to get himself... I mean, he started really well. He was looking very dangerous whilst replacing Saka. And if I'm honest, I don't think Saka's had a particularly good start to the season. He's still got decent numbers. But he doesn't strike me as having... I've not seen him light up anything. He looks like Saka. You're always getting 7 out of 10 every game from him because of his work rate. But I just don't see him particularly... He's not done anything special. And I think Madueke's got his point to prove. And he really quite fancies the game against Chelsea, I would imagine. So if he puts in a performance against Bayern, you've got to sit there and go, okay. Because I think you can play Madueke. You can play Eze in the centre, Madueke on either side, to be fair, and work from that. Rice, I think, has to start. He's playing too well not to start, and it would be strange for him not to start. And as the defensive midfield, I got Norgard, because he's looked really good. He looks solid. He looks just as good as Zubamendi, only with a bigger physical presence, and I think that's going to be important against Bayern. Although, again, I'm saying that. We don't want to get beaten. And that's kind of important. We don't want to get beaten. We certainly don't want to get slapped. That would be irritating for me, for the team, and anyone else, to be fair. Apart from some errant Bayern fans. So I think Norgard would... Norgard's more of a Jorginho. Whereas Zubamendi's more of a Partey. So, yeah. What we really want is a Vieira, someone who can do both. But, ping. Scored, yeah. Wow, didn't do it. And as a back four, I keep Saliba and I keep Hincapié because I think they need to secure their partnership ready for the Chelsea game. They need to learn about each other and how they play. I don't see them again. I don't think they'll be instructed to really go at any tackles or anything like that. I don't think they'll be pressed to be too physical in this game because, again, I don't think it really matters. So I think that it's just about forging that relationship there. I don't like using the word forge. Forge means to fake as well. And I'd have Skelly on the left and Ben White, who hasn't played when he needs to play. Otherwise, he'll be looking for pastures new. And he's a good squad player. He was like Tomiyasu. He's a good squad player and useful because he can play as well, centre-back, if needs be. And then Kepa in goal. So I've got Martinelli, Marino, Rice, Odegaard, Madueke, Norgard, Skelly, Saliba, Hincapié, or Hincapié? I don't know how it's pronounced. I think it's Hincapié. That's got more of a roll to it. Ben White, and then Kepa in goal. And you know what? You look at that. You've got, what? Saliba, Hincapié, Rice, and Marino starting. So 4. That's 7 other players which are coming in. And that still looks like a strong squad. That's a squad which I'd be alright with as just about our first choice. If they started against Chelsea, I still think we'd have a decent chance against Chelsea with that squad. It does look like we've built something now where we have a player for each position twice. And we have versatile players. I mean, Timber can play anywhere across the back. Hincapié can play across the back. And we've got good full-backs twice. Good midfielders, and Madueke can play either side, so he can deputise for Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, or even sit in the middle as an Odegaard stroke Eze. Eze again, as I say, he can fit both sides. I genuinely think we've got players in every single position who are good enough to be wanting to be in that first team. And the problem with that is, of course, is that it generates people being miffed about not getting first team. But we're in all of the competitions. And because of that, being in all of those competitions, you have to think they're going to get minutes. And games like this one gives you those opportunities. You know, there's going to be after the what's it called? After the Chelsea game, I think we've got Brentford. I'm not certain, but I think it's Brentford, and that's a game where I think we could again best a couple of players. There's a Champions League game which I think is relatively easy. I can't remember who it is. I think it's Club Brugge. Should have done your research, Al. I think it's Club Brugge. And that would be one which you'd expect again. You can play part players. Come on. So have a look. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the camera, but I'm presuming you're only listening to my dulcet tones anyway. A bit of scores and fixtures. Waar ben je? Anyone who doesn't know me, yes, I lived in Holland for a while and I speak reasonably good Dutch. Scores and fixtures. Chelsea. No. December. So yeah, Arsenal Brentford, that's at home. Whilst you can't necessarily rest players for it, all of our players are good enough to play in that game. All of them. Villa away. I few days later. Oh, maybe I'll get tickets for that. I'd forgotten all about that. Yeah, Club Brugge is the next Champions League game. We should batter them irrespective of what team we put out, which sounds arrogant, but it's not arrogant. It's just how it is. We should batter them. And then, then we have Wolves, which is where I live. It's at Arsenal, which is irritating. I could probably actually have got tickets for the Bayern Munich game. And in a different set of circumstances, I would have been going with someone. But as it happens, I can't afford it anyway, really and truly. But yeah, the Club Brugge game and the Wolves game, again, you would expect them to be games which Arsenal should be winning. And that gives us the opportunity to play other players. Everton away just before Christmas. Well, I say Everton away just before Christmas. They've got a League Cup game. Quarter-final against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace would quite like to beat us. I'm certain of that. They're the FA Cup holders, if I remember rightly, Crystal Palace. They quite fancy themselves a League Cup. They're playing well. They were, up until they ran into us in the league, they were on the longest unbeaten run. So, yeah. And then Brighton. Away on what? Boxing Day's Day, whatever you call it these days now. 2 days after Christmas. And then there's Aston Villa at Arsenal again on the 30th of December. That's a ridiculous amount of games when you look at it like that. But it is what it is, I suppose. And we have the squad, as I'm saying, to deal with it. We're still waiting on Havertz, I think. And it was interesting. I was watching the overlap and I was watching a couple of Arsenal TV thingies. That's a non-specific syntactic variable. Come on out, sort your words out. Concussion's just about gone. And you're actually starting to articulate now. Yeah, they were saying again, the whole rotate. And I do think that's what's going to happen. And I would not be surprised to see vast swathes of changes across various different games now. The Brighton game, yeah, they're not having a particularly wonderful season. And it's at Arsenal. You could forgive them for easing that one off a little bit. God, I look grey. The Wolves game, again, you'd expect to rotate. Club Brugge, you'd expect to rotate. There's only really the Chelsea game where we would be wanting a total full-strength squad to be starting. And you just never know which Chelsea team's going to turn up, to be fair. It's Chelsea away, I think. Yeah, it's got to be Chelsea away. That could be, I mean, it could be a difficult game. And they're only 6 points behind us. Nice to see Liverpool close behind it with 11 points. Yeah. You have to say, if we win the game against Chelsea, then we're really in the driving seat then. That puts us in a proper position. But we shall see, we shall see. And, yeah, that's my reaction to what's gone on. Happy days.